In a quiet town in Ohio, life moved at a slow and predictable pace for Daniel Carter and his wife, Laura. Daniel worked as an engineer at a small tech company, fixing machines and designing tools that helped make everyday tasks easier. Laura spent her days teaching history at the local high school, sharing stories of past wars, revolutions, and moments of human courage with her students. They were simple people, living simple lives, unaware that the world was about to change forever. On a cool autumn evening, Daniel and Laura sat down for dinner at their kitchen table. The air smelled of roasted chicken and freshly baked bread. Outside, leaves rustled softly in the wind, and the sky glowed orange as the sun dipped below the horizon. It was the kind of peaceful moment that made life feel perfect. But then, something unusual caught Daniel's eye. Through the window, he saw strange lights hovering over their backyard. At first, he thought it might be a drone or a weather balloon, but the lights moved too smoothly, almost floating in a way that didn't seem natural. "Laura," Daniel said, his voice calm but curious, "do you see that?" Laura turned to look, her brow furrowing as she studied the lights. "That's weird," she replied. "They're not blinking like normal aircraft lights." The couple stepped outside to get a closer look. The lights hovered silently, casting an eerie glow over the trees and grass. Then, without warning, they shot upward into the sky and disappeared. Daniel and Laura stood there for a moment, unsure of what they had just witnessed. Before they could discuss it further, their phones buzzed with notifications. News outlets were reporting strange phenomena all over the world: lights in the sky, power outages, and unexplained explosions in major cities. By the time they returned inside, the news had grown more alarming. Reports poured in of coordinated attacks by an unknown force. Buildings crumbled, fires raged, and panic spread like wildfire. Governments initially tried to keep the situation under wraps, but the scale of the destruction made secrecy impossible. People filled the streets, some fleeing in terror while others gathered in groups, trying to make sense of what was happening. President Monroe addressed the nation late that night, his face grim but determined. "We are facing a threat unlike any we have encountered before," he said, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. "These beings, whoever or whatever they are, have declared war on humanity. But let me be clear, humanity will not surrender. We will fight back, not just for survival, but for our right to exist." Daniel and Laura watched the speech together, their hearts pounding. Though they lived far from the chaos unfolding in the cities, they knew their quiet life was over. The next morning, soldiers arrived in their town, setting up checkpoints and preparing defenses. Rumors spread that the attackers were not human, but alien invaders whose intentions remained a mystery. For Daniel, the reality hit hard. He wasn't a soldier or a hero. He was just a man who fixed machines for a living. But as he looked around at the frightened faces of his neighbors, he felt a spark of determination. If humanity refused to surrender, then he would do his part, no matter how small it seemed. Little did he know, his skills would soon become crucial in the battle ahead. And as the days turned into weeks, Daniel and Laura found themselves drawn deeper into a conflict that would test their courage, their love, and their belief in the resilience of the human spirit. The attacks continued with relentless fury. Cities burned, and millions fled their homes in search of safety. The mysterious invaders, who came to be known as the Architects, showed no mercy. Their weapons were unlike anything humanity had ever seen: beams of energy that could vaporize entire buildings in seconds, and drones that moved with unnatural speed and precision. Despite the chaos, people around the world refused to give up. They banded together, helping one another and finding strength in unity. In response to the growing threat, world leaders formed the Global Defense Initiative, or GDI, a coalition dedicated to defending Earth. Among those recruited into GDI's ranks was Emily Dawson, a former Marine sniper from Texas. Emily had spent years serving her country, but nothing could have prepared her for this. She joined forces with Ethan Parker, a physicist whose groundbreaking work on energy manipulation made him invaluable to the war effort. Though Ethan was quiet and reserved, his mind worked like a machine, always analyzing and solving problems. Emily and Ethan were assigned to investigate a crashed alien vessel near Chicago. The wreckage had been cordoned off by soldiers, its metallic surface gleaming faintly under the cloudy sky. As they approached, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating. Inside the ship, they found strange symbols etched into the walls, blueprints and diagrams that seemed to outline plans for some massive project. Ethan studied them intently, his brow furrowed in concentration. "This isn't just about invasion," Ethan said finally, his voice low. "They're terraforming, preparing Earth for something or someone else." Emily frowned. "You mean they're not the main threat? There's something worse coming." Ethan nodded grimly. "Whoever sent them wants this planet for themselves. We're just obstacles to be removed." Their discovery sent shockwaves through GDI headquarters. General Matthew Hayes, the man leading the defense effort, called an emergency meeting. He listened carefully as Ethan explained the implications of what they'd found. If the architects succeeded in altering Earth's environment, it would spell doom for humanity. But there was hope. Ethan believed he could use his knowledge of energy fields to disrupt the alien systems, potentially crippling their operations. Meanwhile, far from the front lines, Daniel Carter and his wife, Laura, struggled to adapt to the new reality. Soldiers had turned their small Ohio town into a makeshift base, and Daniel had been asked to help repair damaged equipment. His engineering skills proved invaluable, earning him recognition from the military. Laura, on the other hand, tried to keep things normal for the children in her class. She taught them about history's greatest battles, emphasizing the resilience of those who fought against impossible odds. One evening, as Daniel tinkered with a broken communication device, Laura sat beside him, her expression troubled. "Do you think we'll make it through this?" she asked softly. Daniel paused, setting down his tools. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I do know one thing. Surrender isn't an option. Not for us, and not for anyone else." Back at GDI headquarters, preparations for the next phase of the war were underway. Emily and Ethan worked tirelessly, refining their plan to counteract the architect's technology. They knew it wouldn't be easy. The aliens' defenses were impenetrable, and any attempt to strike back would come at great risk. Still, they pressed on, driven by the belief that humanity deserved a fighting chance. As days turned into weeks, the stakes grew higher. Reports came in of more cities falling, more lives lost. Yet amidst the devastation, stories of courage emerged. Ordinary people rose to the occasion, risking everything to protect their families and communities. It became clear that this war wasn't just about weapons and strategies. It was about heart. Humanity refused to surrender because giving up meant losing not just their lives, but their identity. And so, with determination burning in their hearts, Emily, Ethan, and countless others prepared for the battles ahead. Whatever challenges lay in store, they were ready to face them head-on. For Earth, for freedom, for the future. As Emily Dawson and Ethan Parker continued to study the alien blueprints, they uncovered even more unsettling details about the architect's plans. The symbols etched into the walls of the crashed vessel revealed that the terraforming process was already underway. Massive machines buried deep beneath Earth's surface were slowly altering the atmosphere and climate, making the planet uninhabitable for humans, but perfect for whatever species was meant to replace them. The architects weren't just invaders, they were exterminators preparing the way for their masters. Ethan worked tirelessly, his fingers flying over a keyboard as he tried to decode the alien technology. "If we can figure out how these machines work," he told Emily one night, "we might be able to shut them down, or at least slow them down." Emily nodded, though doubt lingered in her mind. "Even if we succeed, it won't stop the architects from coming after us. They'll see this as an act of war." "It already is a war," Ethan replied sharply. "We're fighting for survival, Emily. Every second counts. Their findings reached General Hayes, who convened another urgent meeting with GDI leaders. The room buzzed with tension as scientists, soldiers, and politicians debated the next steps. Some argued for immediate surrender, believing it might buy humanity time to negotiate terms. Others, like Senator Rachel Brooks, insisted on resistance. "Surrender won't save us," she said firmly. "They've made it clear they don't want coexistence. They want us gone." The divide among world leaders reflected the fear and uncertainty gripping society. In Daniel Carter's town, rumors spread about the true nature of the invasion. People whispered about underground machines poisoning the air and water. Laura Carter did her best to reassure her students, telling them stories of human resilience throughout history. But even she couldn't ignore the growing unease around her. Daniel threw himself into his work, repairing communication systems and helping the military coordinate efforts. His skills earned him respect, but the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him. One evening, as he walked home from the makeshift base, he found Laura sitting on their porch, staring at the horizon. The sky glowed faintly, a reminder of distant fires burning in cities far away. "How are you holding up?" Daniel asked, sitting beside her. Laura sighed. "I'm scared, Daniel. What if we can't win?" He took her hand in his, squeezing gently. "But we have to try," he said. "For our kids, if not for us." Meanwhile, Emily and Ethan prepared for a daring mission. Intelligence reports suggested that a key component of the Architect's network was housed in a massive structure hovering in orbit above Earth. Destroying or disabling it could cripple their operations temporarily, giving humanity a chance to regroup. General Hayes approved the plan, assembling a small team to carry it out. Alongside Emily and Ethan, the team included Charlotte Bennett, a fearless pilot known for her quick thinking and steady hands under pressure. Charlotte introduced herself with a grin. "Don't worry, I'll get you there in one piece. Getting back, that part's on all of us." As the team trained for the mission, tensions ran high. Emily practiced her aim, knowing she'd need every shot to count. Ethan pored over schematics, double-checking calculations to ensure his plan would work. Daniel, meanwhile, received unexpected news. He'd been asked to join the mission due to his technical expertise. At first, he hesitated, thinking of Laura and how much she needed him. But when he saw the determination in her eyes, he knew he had no choice. "You've always fixed things," Laura told him. "Now go fix this, for all of us." The night before the mission, the team gathered in a briefing room. Outside, stars twinkled faintly against the dark sky. Ethan stood at the front, explaining the risks and challenges ahead. "This isn't just about stopping the architects," he said. "It's about proving to ourselves, and to them, that humanity won't go quietly. We fight because we have something worth protecting." The room fell silent, each person lost in thought. Tomorrow, they would face the unknown, risking everything for a slim chance at survival. Yet despite the odds, a spark of hope burned within them. Humanity refused to surrender, not because victory was guaranteed, but because surrender meant losing the very essence of what it meant to be human. The mission began under the cover of darkness. Charlotte Bennett piloted the small spacecraft with steady hands, weaving through clouds of debris left behind by earlier battles. The team sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts as Earth grew smaller and smaller behind them. Emily Dawson checked her weapons one last time, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. Ethan Parker clutched a data drive containing the program he had spent weeks perfecting, his mind racing through every possible scenario. Daniel Carter stared out the window, wondering if he would ever see Laura again. As they approached the architect's orbital hub, the structure loomed ahead like a monstrous machine. Its surface shimmered with strange lights, pulsating in patterns that seemed almost alive. Automated drones circled it like guards, scanning for intruders. Charlotte's voice broke the tension. "Hold on tight," she said, her tone calm but firm. With expert precision, She maneuvered the ship into a blind spot between two drones, avoiding detection. Once inside the hub, the team moved quickly. The interior was vast and eerie, filled with twisting corridors and glowing conduits. Strange sounds echoed around them, low hums and metallic clicks that sent shivers down their spines. Emily took point, her sniper rifle ready as she scanned for threats. "Stay close," she whispered. "We don't know what's waiting for us." They soon encountered their first challenge, a group of biomechanical creatures patrolling the halls. Part machine, part alien, they moved with unnatural speed and precision. Emily signaled for the team to take cover. "Let me handle this," she murmured, raising her rifle. One by one, she picked off the creatures, her shots clean and accurate. When the path was clear, they pressed forward, knowing time was running out. Ethan led them deeper into the hub, following the schematics he had studied back on Earth. His hands trembled slightly as he held the data drive, aware of the weight of responsibility resting on his shoulders. "This way," he said, pointing to a massive door at the end of a corridor. It slid open with a hiss, revealing a chamber filled with glowing panels and cables connected to a central core. This was it, the heart of the architect's network. Daniel immediately got to work setting up the equipment needed to upload Ethan's program. The process was slow, and the tension in the room was palpable. Outside, the sound of approaching enemies grew louder. Emily positioned herself near the entrance, her rifle trained on the doorway. "Hurry," she urged, glancing over her shoulder. "They're coming." Ethan joined Daniel, helping him troubleshoot issues as the upload progressed. Sweat dripped from their foreheads, and their hands moved frantically over the controls. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the chamber as the first wave of attackers broke through. Emily opened fire, her bullets tearing through the biomechanical creatures. But there were too many of them, and her ammunition was running low. Just as Emily prepared for a final stand, reinforcements arrived unexpectedly. General Hayes himself led a squadron of human fighters, storming into the chamber with guns blazing. "Keep going," he shouted to Daniel and Ethan. "We'll hold them off." Relief washed over the team, but there was no time to celebrate. The upload was nearly complete, but alarms blared throughout the hub, signaling an impending collapse. Sparks flew from overloaded systems, and the walls began to shake violently. Daniel and Ethan worked furiously, ignoring the chaos around them. Finally, the program uploaded successfully, causing a ripple effect that disrupted the architect's network. "We did it," Ethan exclaimed, his voice filled with triumph. But there was no time to savor the moment. The team had to evacuate immediately. As they ran toward the exit, Ethan paused, realizing the core was destabilizing faster than expected. "Go ahead," he told the others. "I'll stay and make sure it holds until you're safe." "No," Daniel protested, grabbing Ethan's arm. "We're not leaving you behind." Ethan shook his head firmly. "You have to. Trust me." Before anyone could argue further, he turned and ran back toward the core, disappearing into the chaos. Heartbroken but determined, the rest of the team followed Charlotte to the ship. As they lifted off, the orbital hub erupted in a blinding explosion, lighting up the sky like a second sun. Back on Earth, people watched the spectacle unfold, unaware of the sacrifices made to achieve it. Humanity had struck its first real blow against the architects, but the cost had been high. And though hope flickered brighter than before, everyone knew the war was far from over. The spacecraft carrying Emily, Daniel, and Charlotte raced away from the exploding orbital hub, its engines roaring as they fought to put distance between themselves and the chaos behind them. The explosion lit up the darkness of space like a fiery sunrise, sending shockwaves that rattled the small ship. Inside, the team sat in stunned silence, their faces pale and drawn. Ethan's sacrifice weighed heavily on all of them, especially Daniel, who clenched his fists tightly to keep his emotions in check. "He saved us," Emily said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "If he hadn't stayed, we'd all be dead." Charlotte finished for her, her usual confidence replaced by a rare moment of vulnerability. She gripped the controls tighter, focusing on getting them back to Earth safely. Daniel stared out the window at the fading glow of the explosion, tears streaming down his face. He thought about Laura and how proud she would be of what Ethan had done, but it didn't make the loss any easier. Ethan wasn't just a scientist. He was a man who believed in humanity's potential, even when the odds seemed impossible. Now that belief lived on through the program he had given his life to protect. Back on Earth, news of the mission spread quickly. People gathered around televisions and radios, watching footage of the orbital hub's destruction. For the first time since the invasion began, there was a sense of hope. General Hayes addressed the world from GDI headquarters, his expression solemn but resolute. "Today, we struck a blow against our enemies," he announced. "Thanks to the bravery of men and women willing to risk everything, we have disrupted the Architects Network. This is not the end of the war, but it is proof that we can fight back." In Ohio, Laura Carter watched the broadcast with tears in her eyes. She didn't know yet that Daniel was safe, but she felt a surge of pride knowing he had been part of something so important. Her students, too, were inspired by the news. "Mrs. Carter," one boy asked during class the next day, "do you think we'll win?" Laura smiled softly. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I do know this, as long as we keep fighting, for each other, for our future, we haven't lost." Meanwhile, Emily and Daniel returned to GDI headquarters, where they were greeted as heroes. But neither of them felt like celebrating. They attended a brief ceremony honoring Ethan's sacrifice, where General Hayes presented his daughter, a young woman named Mia, with a medal in her father's name. Maya stood tall despite her grief, her voice steady as she thanked everyone for remembering him. "My dad always said humanity's greatest strength was its ability to come together," she told the crowd. "Let's prove him right." As days passed, the team began preparing for the next phase of the war. Intelligence reports indicated that while the orbital hub's destruction had dealt a significant blow to the architects, their efforts to terraform Earth were still underway. Underground machines continued altering the planet's atmosphere, and smaller alien forces remained active across the globe. Humanity's victory was temporary and fragile. Emily threw herself into training new recruits, teaching them how to handle weapons and stay calm under pressure. "This isn't just about shooting straight," she told them. "It's about believing you can make a difference, even when things seem hopeless." Daniel worked alongside engineers to develop better tools using technology salvaged from the crashed alien vessels. His mind often drifted to Ethan, wondering if he would approve of the progress they were making. At night he called Laura, sharing stories of their work and listening to her updates from home. Their conversations reminded him why he kept going, why all of them kept going. Charlotte, meanwhile, volunteered for reconnaissance missions, flying solo into dangerous territory to gather information. Her daring exploits earned her a reputation as one of GDI's most fearless pilots, yet even she couldn't shake the memory of Ethan's final moments. "He was braver than I'll ever be," she admitted to Emily one evening. Despite the challenges ahead, a renewed sense of purpose filled the ranks of GDI. Soldiers trained harder, scientists worked longer hours, and ordinary citizens found ways to contribute however they could. Humanity refused to surrender, not because winning seemed certain, but because giving up meant losing everything that defined them. And so, amidst the ruins of war-torn cities and beneath skies, darkened by alien machines, people held on to hope. The battle was far from over, but they had proven one thing beyond doubt. No matter how powerful the enemy, humanity's spirit could not be broken. Months passed after the destruction of the orbital hub, and Earth began to heal, slowly and painfully. Cities that had been reduced to rubble were now being rebuilt, brick by brick. Refugees returned to their homes, carrying with them both scars and stories of survival. The war against the architects was far from over, but humanity's first real victory had ignited a spark of hope. People worked together, sharing resources and helping neighbors rebuild. In Ohio, Daniel Carter and his wife, Laura, joined community efforts to restore their town. Though life was still hard, the sense of unity reminded everyone what they were fighting for. At GDI headquarters, Emily Dawson continued training new recruits, her sharp eyes watching every move they made. She pushed them to their limits, knowing the battles ahead would demand nothing less. "You can't afford to hesitate," she told a group of young soldiers one morning. "Out there, hesitation gets you killed. And worse, it gets your teammates killed." Her words carried weight, not just because of her experience, but because of the sacrifices she had witnessed. Ethan's memory lingered in her mind, a constant reminder of why they'd fought so fiercely. Daniel spent most of his days working alongside engineers to improve Earth's defenses. Using reverse-engineered alien technology, they developed advanced weapons and shields capable of holding off the Architects' attacks. It was slow, painstaking work, but progress came steadily. One evening, as he reviewed blueprints late into the night, Laura walked in with a cup of coffee. "You're going to wear yourself out," she said gently, setting the cup beside him. "I have to keep going," Daniel replied, rubbing his tired eyes. "If we stop, even for a moment, they'll take everything from us." Laura nodded, understanding the weight of his words. She didn't try to convince him to rest. Instead, she stayed by his side, offering quiet support. Together, they found strength in each other, just as countless others found strength in their loved ones. Charlotte Bennett remained on the front lines, flying missions that often seemed impossible. Her small fighter jet became a symbol of resilience, darting through enemy forces with unmatched skill. During one particularly dangerous mission, she intercepted an alien convoy transporting parts for terraforming machines. With precision and courage, she destroyed the convoy, buying humanity more time to prepare. When she landed back at base, General Hayes greeted her personally. "You've done the impossible again," he said with a rare smile. But despite these victories, whispers of the Architects' true masters, the colonizers destined to arrive, grew louder. Scientists analyzing alien data discovered fragments of information about the beings who had sent the Architects. They were called the Harbingers, a species far more advanced and ruthless than their enforcers. Fear spread among world leaders, but General Hayes refused to let it paralyze them. "We've faced overwhelming odds before," he reminded his team during a meeting, "and we've proven we can adapt, survive, and fight back." In the midst of this uncertainty, humanity's resolve only grew stronger. Farmers planted crops in fields once scorched by alien weapons. Teachers like Laura taught children about the importance of perseverance, and soldiers stood ready to defend their homes. Even those who weren't directly involved in the war found ways to contribute, whether by volunteering at shelters or crafting tools for the military. One evening, Emily stood on a hill overlooking a recovering city. The lights of rebuilding efforts twinkled faintly in the distance, a stark contrast to the darkness of earlier months. She thought about Ethan and all the others who had given their lives for this fragile peace. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she wiped them away quickly. "We'll finish what you started," she whispered to the night sky. Back in Ohio, Daniel held Laura close as they watched the stars. "Do you think we'll ever see a world without war?" she asked softly. "Maybe not in our lifetime," Daniel admitted. "But if we keep fighting, for freedom, for love, for hope, we'll leave something better for the next generation." As humanity prepared for the battles ahead, they did so with a shared belief. Surrender was not an option. The Architects had underestimated the power of human determination, and the Harbingers would soon learn the same lesson. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity stood ready to face them, not just to survive, but to thrive. The war against the Architects dragged on, but humanity's resistance grew stronger with each passing day. New weapons, built from alien technology, gave soldiers an edge in battle. Cities fortified themselves with advanced shields, and underground bunkers housed families seeking safety. Though scars of destruction remained visible across the planet, there was a sense of progress, a fragile but undeniable momentum. People worked tirelessly, driven by the belief that every small victory brought them closer to reclaiming their world. Emily Dawson stood at the edge of a battlefield one evening, watching as engineers installed a massive energy cannon designed to disrupt the architect's terraforming machines. The weapon had been her idea, inspired by Ethan's final program. As she looked at it, she felt a mix of pride and sorrow. "This is what he would have wanted," she said softly to herself. Nearby, Daniel Carter supervised the setup, his hands steady despite the fatigue etched into his face. He glanced up at Emily and nodded, silently acknowledging the shared weight of their mission. Laura Carter continued teaching history, now weaving stories of the current war into her lessons. Her students listened intently, their young faces filled with awe and determination. "Remember," she told them one afternoon, "history isn't just about the past. It's about what we do today and tomorrow." Her words resonated deeply, not just with her students but with everyone who heard them. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to leave behind a legacy worth remembering. Charlotte Bennett soared through the skies once more, her jet slicing through enemy drones with practiced ease. She had become a legend among the troops, her name spoken with admiration and gratitude. Yet even she knew the war was far from over. Reports of the Harbingers, the true masters behind the architects, grew more frequent. These beings were said to be unstoppable, their arrival heralding Earth's final reckoning. Still, Charlotte refused to let fear dictate her actions. "If they come," she told a group of new pilots during training, "we'll meet them head-on. We've faced worse." General Hayes called a meeting with global leaders to discuss the looming threat. The room buzzed with tension as scientists presented their findings. The Harbingers were already en route to Earth, traveling faster than anything humanity had ever encountered. "We don't have much time," Hayes admitted grimly. "But we've proven before that unity and ingenuity can overcome impossible odds. Let's make sure we're ready." In response, nations pooled their resources, building colossal defense platforms in orbit around Earth. These stations bristled with weapons powered by alien tech, designed to hold off the Harbingers until humanity could find a way to defeat them outright. Engineers worked around the clock, their efforts fueled by hope and desperation alike. As preparations intensified, ordinary people found ways to contribute. Farmers donated food to feed soldiers and refugees. Artists painted murals of heroes like Ethan and Charlotte, reminding everyone of the sacrifices made along the way. Families gathered nightly to share stories of resilience, drawing strength from one another. One clear night, Daniel and Laura sat outside their home, staring at the stars. "Do you think we'll win?" Laura asked quietly. "I don't know," Daniel replied honestly. "But I do know this. Surrender means losing everything. Fighting means holding on to hope, even when it feels like all is lost." Back at GDI headquarters, Emily gazed at a photo of Ethan pinned to her desk. His smile reminded her why they endured the long nights and hard battles. "We'll finish this," she whispered, "for you and for everyone counting on us." When the Harbingers finally arrived, their ships darkened the skies, casting shadows over Earth. But humanity stood ready, armed with courage, innovation, and an unyielding spirit. Soldiers manned their posts, civilians prepared shelters, and leaders coordinated strategies. The real war had begun, but so had humanity's greatest stand. Though the outcome remained uncertain, one truth shone brightly: humanity refused to surrender. Not because they believed victory was guaranteed, but because giving up meant losing the essence of what made them human. And as the first shots rang out against the Harbingers, people around the world raised their voices in defiance, united in purpose and hope. Whatever came next, they would face it together, for freedom, for love, and for the future.